In furtherance of the local content developmental strides by the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board under the leadership of the Executive Secretary, Engineer Simbi Wabote, is not resting on its oars but striving to maximize on the capacity and capability of the local content opportunities and potentials in Nigeria's oil and gas industry, with a goal in the next 10 years to push for a phenomenal growth up from the current 26% to 70% value retention by 2027. Since assumption of office, the Executive Secretary, Engineer Simbi Wabote, crisscrossed the nooks and crannies of Nigeria on facility visits together with some industry stakeholders on his fact-finding mission. The Executive Secretary saw world-class fabrication yards, plants, factories, and training facilities of varying sizes and sophistication. He saw firsthand the state of the industry and in addition gathered data and made a categorical statement that there is no oil and gas input we cannot deliver in country.
And I think it's a statement of fact. It's not a theory, because on assumption of office, the first thing I did was to tour around the country to look at capacities that have been established. And I came to that conviction because taking up this portfolio, most project promoters will come and argue with you that capacity does not exist, the contractors are not up to speed, but you need to be able to authoritatively speak back to them on what does exist. So with that visit, I was convinced beyond any reasonable doubt that Nigerians can indeed do everything that we do in the oil and gas industry. But I am not disputing the fact that there are some items that are original equipment manufacturers. These are patented items. You cannot force a localization of that. Those things still exist, but majority of the work that you do in the oil and gas industry can be done by Nigerians if they are adequately supported with funding, and we are able to, as quickly as possible, as this administration is focusing on.
With a local supply chain capacity and capability, which has been built in Nigeria's oil and gas industry in the last 8 years following the signing of the Local Content Act into law. To further deepen the local content development strides, the Executive Secretary and his team also pushes for the necessary exposure to attract investment opportunities on the global stage to enhance the sector. In May 2017, the annual Offshore Technology Conference OTC 2017, which is a one-stop show of oil and gas sector, featured Nigeria's oil and gas industry, and the NCDMB was not left behind. Indigenous oil players and government functionaries were present. They include the Honorable Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Dr. Ibe Kachuku, the Bayelsa State Governor, His Excellency Sarah K. Dixon, amongst others. The Executive Secretary embarked on the journey to OTC 2017 in Houston, Texas, United States of America, to see firsthand the level of growth the Nigerian industry has attained with a healthy competition with oil majors by showcasing new technologies, oil services, expertise, solutions in the sector, which in the long run attracts investment opportunities to Nigeria's oil and gas sector.
First, let me welcome everybody who's found time to come to OTC for this year. I understand that cotton is symbolic to hopefully getting more wells. I have the honor and pleasure on behalf of His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari, to declare this fair open and let you all into the realm of possibility.
The Executive Secretary of the NCDMB, Engineer Wabote, when answering questions at the OTC 2017 from journalists, he touched on the importance of local content to the economy and employment's future plans for the board to deliver optimally.
It's a catalyst to creation of employment in our industry. Even though the oil and gas industry is not a huge employer of labor because of the high technology that's involved in it. The high-end technology today have a lot of Nigerians activating it. The bottom line is to retain the foreign exchange and the brain drain we have had in the country in the oil and gas sector today. So there's no gainsaying. Significantly, if you go back to the country today, most of the oil and gas industry are headed by Nigerians. 20 years ago, 10 years ago, they were all expats. Today, Nigerians have taken over. In the oil service sector, 99% of that activity is managed by Nigerians. So significant benefit and a catalyst for employment. Significantly, we have reduced the expatriate numbers. Like I said to you before, all the oil majors in the country were headed by expats in the past 10 years. But today, as we speak, the expats only occupy 5% of the leadership of most of those organizations. So it's significant. We've come a long way as a country. Today also, most of the fields are being operated by Nigerians. Like you know, most of the oil majors got into divestment. Nigerians bought those assets. They've ramped up those assets and come up with significant production. For instance, when Seplat took over the asset from Shell, it was doing 30,000 barrels a day. Today, Seplat has been able to complete that asset, and today you have about 75,000 barrels per day production. That is a significant achievement in the oil and gas sector. So we're making good progress, and I believe it's the right way to go.
The Executive Secretary didn't mince words about the funding challenges experienced by local content players and drivers, which includes indigenous players in country, and harped on the need to raise an intervention fund to assist indigenous oil players who are striving to be at par with oil majors.
In every facet of life, there are challenges, but the challenges are also opportunity. It depends on how you look at it. Some people look at the glass half empty. I look at the glass half full. So those challenges can be turned to an opportunity, and those are the things that create the opportunity for Nigeria. So I don't see them as obstacles. I see them as opportunities. So in everything you do, there are those kind of challenges, but it's the ingenuity in Nigerians to overcome those challenges and turn them to an opportunity, and that's what we're doing in the local content fair.
Okay, can you cite
some of the challenges are funding. Most of the local businesses struggle with funding to sustain their business because of high interest rates in the banks. Those are challenges, but NCDMB is also trying to come to the rescue through the Nigerian Content Fund to see how we fund local businesses to provide services for the oil and gas industry. Those other challenges is also in the area of technology, because we started local content a bit late in the game, and as we're moving on, the advanced countries are also enhancing their technology. It's how we catch up. It's also some bit of a challenge. And then I think the other piece again is linkages, interagency linkages, particularly in the various ministries and parastatals, where some of the policies also impede some of our agenda. But we are working all those through. So, of course, you also know the infrastructural challenge in Nigeria. Power is a challenge, which the present administration is actively working. Our road infrastructure is also a challenge. So those are some of the challenges that are perhaps slowing down our progress in local content development. But they are also an opportunity for all the sectors to also flourish.
Okay. So are you saying there is synergy between or among the stakeholders, oil players, both indigenous and international oil companies?
Indeed.
Is there synergy to promote local content?
Yes, there is. Initially, when we started this journey, there was some bit of resistance, but today, as I speak, they have also come to see the benefits of bringing down costs, the benefit also of security of supply. So I think they've synergized properly with the local content agenda, and some of them are actually promoting it because they see the benefits.
A few months after the Executive Secretary mentioned in an interview in the US that the board will soon raise an intervention Intervention Fund to aid the financial challenges faced by the indigenous players in country, it was not lip service after all. The Executive Secretary and his team put their best foot forward to ensure the board's dream of assisting local oil and gas players financially. Upon arrival to Nigeria, all hands were on deck for the launch of the Intervention Fund led by engineer Simbi Wabote.
I am delighted to welcome you all to this MOU signing ceremony between NCDMB and the Bank of Industry for the implementation of the Nigerian Content Intervention Fund. This is a very important event in the history of NCDMB because it marks the crystallization of our efforts and plans to address the persistent funding challenges that has stifled capacity development in our country and growth of our local service providers and other indigenous players in the oil and gas industry. It is not common to find major players in the oil and gas industry and beyond gathered in the same room in support of Nigerian content. Thus, my speech will go beyond a simple welcome address, as I intend to utilize this opportunity, which is rare, to espouse a bit on our Nigerian content journey, just to give some background to the essence and criticality of the Nigerian Content Intervention Fund. My address, therefore, will be in three parts. I will highlight the activities and achievements of NCDMB in the last 7 years of its existence. Then I will focus on our 10-year vision and strategic initiative to achieve the vision. Lastly, I will talk about the challenges we face and what we are doing to address those challenges. The Nigerian Oil and Gas Industry Content Development Act was signed into law in 2010. Before then, all fabrication, engineering, and procurement were done abroad, which resulted in estimated capital flight of about $380 billion in 50 years. Estimated job loss opportunity was in the region of 2 million. The narrative then was that nothing could be done in country. Over time, we found to be detrimental to the economy and thus leading to government efforts to stem the tide, to give legal backing to the directives and provide an all-encompassing framework for the development of Nigerian Content Act was enacted in 2010. Under the Act, the board's mandate can be broadly classified into two. First is to develop capacity of local supply chain for effective and efficient service delivery to the oil and gas industry, without compromising standards, and secondly, to implement and enforce the provisions of the NOGIC Act 2010. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, since the inception of NCDMB, we have been consistent in promoting the development and enforcement of the local content implementation in the oil and gas industry, leading to some key achievements, and I would like to mention just for a few. Before the Act, we had an annual spend of $20 billion with little or nothing retained in country. Today, I can confidently say that we spend $5 billion in country every year. Before 2010, we targeted the establishment of 4 pipe mills. Today, we have 2 world-class pipe mills and 5 very impressive pipe coating facilities in country.
In August 2017, in the PTDF Auditorium, Abuja, the signing ceremony of the $200 million Nigerian Content Intervention Fund took place, and This was done in partnership with NCDMB's partner Bank of Industry.
Now on to the signing ceremony. I'd like to call on the Director Legal of the NCDMB for this process. Please welcome Rose to go in. So that it's a remarkable feat. All of our attention will now move to you who will get this fund. Not to the NCDMB, because we know they will do their job in monitoring, in evaluating, and in ensuring that you put it to good use. But our eyes will also be on you who gets this money. We must be sure that you will not marry a second wife. You're not buy a Rolls Royce. You're not taking chieftaincy title. Ladies and gentlemen, now when the handshake comes out, you know the deal is done. Can we celebrate the achievement of the NCIF MOU signing today? Story. Better. Yes. Hold it. That's right. All right. Okay. We all remember that there was this.
This fund will be used to increase capacity of local players in the industry. It will generate employment. It will create linkages that will affect and lead to the growth in the industrial sector. As Bank of Industry, we are one of the leading DFIs in Nigeria. And one of the things that we are known for is that most of our loans are actually single digits. But this is single digits in dollars. It will have been a bit difficult if not for the fact that the funding is being provided by NCDMB. There are many aspects of this facility that many of you are interested in. We're going to be having regular workshops to let people know how you can access the loan and what you need to do. Well, just in summary forms, it can be used to acquire assets for those who are in oil and gas. You have contracts that you have to execute for the majors. And there's a single obligor limit on that type of facility. It will not exceed $10 million. And the interest rate on it will not exceed 8% per annum. Also, they have taken into account, or we have taken into account, community contractors, people who are in the community, because this fund is trying to ensure that they also are brought along. And they've even made that one much easier. When I say they, it's because the money we are working based on instructions of the partnership that we have with NCDMB. For community contractors, they can access up to 20 million naira, and the interest rate on that will not exceed 5% per annum.
Particularly the issue of contract approval cycles. I've been very firm from day one that there has no reason why this country should have a contract approval cycle is in excess of 6 months. Today, I think we've moved it from the typical 18 to 24 months back out to somewhere in the neighborhood of 13 to 14 months. It's still struggling. We must put speed to this. This costs money, and this has a direct linkage with my philosophy that we must reduce the cost of production. And talking about cost of production, a lot of debates in the media recently in terms of what is the cost of production. 32, which was figure quoted for me, and 23, which NNPC has quoted. The reality is that production in our offshore fields are in excess of $32 a barrel. There's no doubt about that. And our production onshore was ranging about 28. NNPC has done a good job of bringing it down to 23. But that is not where we're headed. Where we're headed is 15, and it's not 18. We must bring back down cost of production. We must be able to look our OPEC brothers in the face and be able to compete adequately. If you look at the rundown, we're probably second or third highest country with the highest production figures. The issue of militancy and all that can no longer explain that. We have had militancy for so long that by now we must have alternatives in the event of that. Oil companies must rise to the challenges of producing oil in this country. And we cannot produce oil in an environment where we are unable to, with certainty, say what the pricing is going to be and continue to run a high-cost model. It will not work. We must drive those numbers down. And so, for the benefit of clarity on this issue, the target is 15, the target is not 18, and we're going to all have to work collectively to try and do that. And I believe that NNPC and the oil majors will achieve that. Everybody's working around the clock on this. There's a lot of energy around it, and I believe that we're going to get there.
Coming on the heels of the signing ceremony of the Intervention Fund, the Executive Secretary took time out to shed more light on the workings of the fund, how it will be judiciously managed to achieve its purpose, among other things he talked about. He emphasized the role of the Bank of Industry in all the process.
Our contributors to the fund to begin to apply for it, and it will go through the normal credit screening of the bank, and such that this is not free money. It's money that has to revolve, so it's not money that is being given to anybody to trade with or anybody to acquire more properties, but it's money that is being given for genuine businesses in the country. So it's open to all Nigerians to start the process. We committed that from application to eventual disbursement, it's a 45-day window. If you don't qualify, Bank of Industry will write you. NCDMB does not do the screening of prospective applicants. It is entirely the responsibility of Bank of Industry through their normal credit process. So we have put all kinds of processes and created processes that are very transparent to everybody. So there is no man-no-man associated with the process itself. It's a normal bank lending, and the bulk of the risk of lending is taken by Bank of Industry. So the onus is on them to ensure that there is a transparent and prudent process to deliver on this.
The NCDMB boss, speaking at the Nigerian International Petroleum Summit 2018 maiden edition in Abuja, also gave credence to the initiative of NIPS 2018 and also considered it a great platform to promote the local content development initiatives.
Conferences like this, but it's Nigerian-centric. But this is trying to expand it beyond Nigeria to bring in other African countries, because we have a lot to share together, particularly in terms of capacities that we have developed in Nigeria and also in other countries that we can harness for the benefit of the continent. So as you can imagine, you have ministers of other countries here present, and also the OPEC Secretary General himself. And also present here. That shows you that it's beyond the shores of Nigeria. It's an African thing. And like the minister said, this is the way we start in a bid to have an international oil and gas summit that we can also compare to the likes of ADIPEC, the likes of OTC, and other international conferences you have in the world. It's a start, but the goal is that we will get there. I think in 5 years' time, just like when we started NOG 19 years ago, it went very far, and then bolt on to the Local Content Act. It enabled Nigerians to exhibit their ingenuity in terms of manufacturing, in terms of service provision. So I believe that if we continue the tempo and we are inconsistent in our approach, in 5 years' time, we will see in Nigeria that 70% of the oil and gas activities are within the hands of Nigerians. And we also see us extending our services to sub-Saharan Africa, as well as receiving services from them. I see this blossoming, and at some point maybe compete with ADIPEC and perhaps OTC at some point. Of course it will. OTC, like you know, it's an offshore technology conference where people go and look at new technologies in the offshore arena. It will still be relevant, especially in this day and age of artificial intelligence and robotics.
The NCDMB boss thanked all and sundry who cooperated and collaborated with the federal government to push for local content development since it was signed into law. It's hoped that the value retention in-country plans will have a phenomenal growth up from the current 26% to 70% value retention by 2027.